Richard Himmer here. Vince Lombardi once said, "Practice doesn't make perfect. Perfect practice makes perfect." Well, as a coach of Little League players, that really resonated with me. I've asked them to turn a double play over and over again, but they're just messing around, they're just spastic, they're all over the place, which means they'll do just the same thing in a game. Well, isn't that true with us in interpersonal relationships? Let's say I want to get along better with my children, or maybe with my bride. When I'm practicing to do it right, I get to make all sorts of mistakes because I get retakes. And you might ask, well, how do you do that? Because many people think that practicing is actually having a conversation with my wife or my children. So I once said to a mother, how much time do you spend practicing being a mom? She rolled her eyes. She goes, all day long. I said, well, that's not practice. That's game time. How much practice are you putting in your happiness and well-being? We have found now from the Journal of Neuroscience and the Harvard medical community the following things. When we practice in our mind's eye, in our subconscious, using mindfulness, meditation, whatever you want to call that, our brain cannot tell the difference if I actually shot a free throw or shot a free throw in my mind. If I had a conversation with you in real life or I had a conversation in my mind. Because if I do it in my mind, I can lose my temper, make a correction and go, that's probably not the best thing to do, and do the whole thing over again, and my mind will simply record, that's not a good way to do it. I just got to have an experience in my mind's eye, created a bunch of neurons, and then realized that's not the way I want to go. So what if I practice it then over and over again, doing it right, being neutral, asking good questions, being interested, connecting with my child, and then redirecting the child instead of going ballistic? What if I could get myself to the position I could practice neutrality in my mind's eye and do it over and over again? Well, as Dr. Siegel says, neurons that fire together wire together. That's practicing that's perfectly practicing. Now here's the next level. If we can perfectly practice so we can do it over and over again, we no longer want to practice to get it wrong. If we practice correctly, we no longer practice to get it right. We practice so we don't get it wrong. Because we're practicing at a space where we can create new neurons. And we do it over and over again so they start wiring together, and that becomes a neural pathway. So now we're becoming better at what we wanted to do when we realized we couldn't do it just by going out and having the conversation. So this is what I meant by that. Let's say I have a friend named Steve. I said, Steve, I got to work on a little bit on keeping neutrality when I talk to someone. Will you please piss me off right now? Do something to really aggravate me because I need to figure out a way to stay neutral. That's one way to practice. Or you can just go home and have your teenagers do something silly, or maybe your spouse or whatever. Or you can do that in your mind's eye. We have found from the research, we can now measure it in MRIs, that you can practice in your mind's eye 27 minutes a day, and here's a way to do it. What if you got up in the morning and simply did a quick mindfulness for 5 or 6 minutes? Did a 4-4-8, and then you drove to work. But don't turn the radio on. Do a quick 4-4-8 and a little relaxing, just focusing on your breath for about 5 minutes, and then visualize. No words, just visualize. Pay attention to what you're feeling and visualize yourself going through the process of the day. Completely neutral. Beautiful. At lunch, take 2 minutes and just do a quick 4-4-8 and just listen to your breath. On the way home, rinse and repeat, and before you go to bed, rinse and repeat. You now have 30 to 40 to 50 minutes a day where you're simply resourcing yourself and practicing. And you can do that hundreds of times, if not thousands of times, in your mind's eye in the course of a day. And now you're practicing so you can't get it wrong, because you'll create a neural pathway based upon those experiences, which then you now create new beliefs, and now you have new behaviors. A perfect recipe for happiness and well-being. I dare you to do it. Take care.